Chosen one, why are you still alive? No, I'm serious. Why didn't that heart attack take you in 2009? Why did you wake up this morning when 3 people in your city didn't? Why are you here right now, staring at this screen, when you could have scrolled past like you do everything else? You think this is coincidence? Heaven just stopped your timeline. The Almighty literally interrupted your day, your plans, your routine, your normal, because there's something you need to hear before the sun sets on America today. And if you miss this, I don't know if you'll get another chance. Listen to me carefully. You know that feeling you've been carrying, that weight in your chest that won't go away no matter how much you pray. That sense that something massive is coming but you can't name it. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's not your age. That's the sound of eternity knocking on the door of your spirit, saying, your name was just spoken in the throne room. You've been feeling overlooked, haven't you? Forgotten by your own children. Invisible to a world that worships youth. Lying awake at 3 a.m., wondering if God even remembers your address. You whisper in the dark, God, where are you now? Did I miss my moment? Am I too old, too late, too broken? But what if I told you? What if I looked you dead in the eye and told you that every single one of those feelings was a setup? That the enemy has been whispering lies to keep you from discovering what God embedded in this very moment? There's a reason you're exhausted. There's a reason the pressure has been building for months. It's not burnout, dear soul. It's contraction. You're not falling apart. You're about to give birth to something heaven has been growing in secret. You know when a doctor calls and says, we need to talk? That urgency, that flutter in your stomach. Heaven just gave you one of those calls, and you picked up. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. Here's what I need you to understand. There is one thing God has been trying to show you for months. It's hidden inside the very pressure you've been feeling. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal what the enemy has been desperately trying to keep you from seeing. But first, if your spirit already feels this tug, if something inside you is saying, this is for me, drop I'm here in the comments right now. Let heaven see you showed up. Let the angels take notice. Because chosen one, you're not watching this by accident. You were summoned. Why does your bed feel heavier at night? Why does silence sound louder than it used to? Why do you wake up at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding, not from a nightmare, but from a knowing you can't explain? Listen to me, chosen one. That weight pressing down on your chest, that's not depression. That loneliness creeping into your bones even when you're surrounded by family, that's not abandonment. And that sense, that deep, unsettling sense that something enormous is about to break open, that's not your imagination running wild. It's confirmation. You've been walking through your own life like a stranger in your own house. The lights are off. The furniture hasn't moved, but everything feels unfamiliar. You know these rooms. You've lived here for 70, 80 years, but suddenly, nothing feels like home anymore. You reach for the light switch, and your hand passes right through where you thought it was. You're disoriented in the place you know best. That's what's been happening to your spirit. For months now, maybe longer, you've been carrying something you can't name. It wakes you up. It follows you to the kitchen table. It sits with you during your morning coffee. It rides with you to the doctor's office. It's there when you're flipping through channels, pretending you're not lonely. It whispers when you're staring at your phone, wondering why your kids haven't called. And you've been trying to pray it away, haven't you? You've been on your knees asking God to remove this heaviness. Lord, take this from me. I'm tired. I'm old. I don't have the strength for this anymore. You've begged him for relief, for lightness, for the joy you used to feel when you were younger and everything made sense. But it won't lift. And do you know why? Because what you're feeling isn't something God wants to remove. It's something he's deliberately placed on you. James 1-3 tells us, The testing of your faith produces perseverance. But here's what most preachers won't tell you. That word testing in Greek is dokimion. It doesn't mean God is checking to see if you'll pass or fail. It means He's applying pressure to prove what you're made of. Not to Him, He already knows. To you and to hell. You think God has been silent? No, beloved. Silence isn't God leaving you. Silence is God leaning in. Think about it. When does a doctor lean in close? When he's listening for your heartbeat, when he's checking for signs of life, when he needs to hear something faint, something most people would miss. That's what's been happening in your spirit. The Almighty has been leaning in so close you can feel His breath on your neck, listening for the sound of your surrender. But you've mistaken His proximity for His absence. Romans 8:18 declares, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Not to us. In us. The glory isn't coming from outside. It's erupting from within. And that pressure you've been feeling, that's the glory trying to break through the surface of your ordinary life. You've been feeling abandoned by people, haven't you? Your children are too busy. Your friends from church, half of them have passed on, and the other half don't call anymore. You sit in that living room, looking at pictures on the wall of a life that used to be full, and now it's just you and the silence and the television you keep on for noise. But what if I told you that every person who walked away, every friend who stopped calling, every door that closed in your face, what if all of that was divine strategy? What if God has been isolating you, not as punishment, but as preparation? Psalm 34:18 says, The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Did you catch that? He's close to the brokenhearted, not distant, not indifferent, not ignoring, close, intimate, present. The closer you get to your assignment, the more alone you'll feel. Because God can't use you powerfully while you're still depending on people's approval, people's presence, people's validation. He had to strip all that away, so the only voice you'd hear is His. You know what's been happening, don't you? The attacks have been increasing. Right before you found this message, something happened. Maybe it was a phone call that ruined your peace. Maybe it was a medical report that shook your faith. Maybe it was a memory that wouldn't stop haunting you. Maybe it was just heaviness. Unexplainable, unshakable heaviness. That wasn't random. The enemy always attacks hardest right before your breakthrough. He doesn't waste ammunition on people who don't matter. He reserves his fiercest assaults for the ones carrying something he fears. And, chosen one, you've been under siege, because hell knows what heaven has been preparing behind the scenes. There's a shift happening in the invisible realm right now. While you've been sitting in your living room feeling forgotten, angels have been rearranging furniture in the spirit. While you've been crying in the middle of the night, wondering if God still sees you, your name has been spoken in divine counsels. While you've been feeling like your time has passed, eternity has been counting down to your moment. That weight you've been carrying, it's not a burden meant to break you. It's the weight of glory getting ready to rest on your shoulders. That loneliness you've been feeling, it's not rejection, it's consecration, being set apart, being prepared for something the crowd could never understand. That sense that something is coming, you're right, something is. And it's bigger than anything you've survived so far. But here's what you need to understand before we go any deeper. The reason the pressure increased, the reason the attacks intensified, the reason everything felt like it was falling apart right before this moment, it's because you're standing at a threshold. And the enemy knows that once you cross it, there's no going back to who you used to be. So let me ask you something that's going to determine everything that happens next. Or are you finally ready to recognize it as His presence pressing down on you, preparing you, positioning you for something you've been praying for your entire life without even knowing what you were asking for? Because what I'm about to show you next will explain why God had to break you before He could remake you. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What you've been going through for the last 6 months, the last year, maybe even the last decade, it wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't God punishing you for something you did wrong back in 1987. You've been in a test, and not the kind of test where you fill in bubbles with a number 2 pencil. I'm talking about the kind of test that makes you question everything. The kind that strips away your props, your securities, your carefully constructed plans. The kind that leaves you standing in your kitchen at 2 a.m., hands shaking, wondering if you're going to make it through another day. But here's what the enemy has been desperately trying to hide from you. Your life didn't get harder because you're weak. Your life got harder because you're important. Think about that for a moment. Let it sink deep into your bones. The devil doesn't waste ammunition on people who don't matter. Hell doesn't mobilize its forces against ordinary believers who pose no threat. But you've had target practice painted on your back since the day God marked you for greatness. Job understood this better than anyone. The Bible says in Job 1-8 that God himself pointed Job out to Satan. Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And what happened next? Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. His wealth vanished, his children died, his health collapsed. His own wife told him to curse God and die. But here's what most preachers won't tell you about Job's story. The test wasn't about what Job lost. The test was about who was watching while he lost it. Heaven was watching. God never looked away. Not for 1 second. See, the refiner never turns his back on the gold. When the fire burns the hottest, his eyes are the closest. He's not torturing you, beloved. He's purifying you. He's watching to see what rises to the surface when everything else burns away. And what God saw in Job, what he's seeing in you right now, is pure gold underneath all that pressure. You know why you're still standing? You know why you didn't quit when everyone said you should? You know why something inside you keeps whispering one more day, even when your body is screaming, I'm done. Because heaven is documenting your response. Every tear you've cried in secret recorded. Every prayer you've whispered when your voice was too broken to speak out loud heard. Every time you chose faith over fear, trust over doubt, worship over worry, written in eternal records that will never be erased. Malachi 3:16 says, Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard. A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. A scroll of remembrance. Your faithfulness in the fire is being documented by angels who are taking notes on your obedience when nobody's watching. But I need to tell you something that's going to shift everything you thought you knew about suffering. Are you ready? The test was never meant to punish you. It was meant to promote you. Joseph spent 13 years in slavery and prison before he ruled Egypt. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he split the Red Sea. David ran from cave to cave for years before he touched the throne. Paul was beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, and left for dead before he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. The pressure you've been under? That's not God rejecting you. That's God preparing you for an assignment so massive that if he gave it to you today, it would crush you. He's not withholding your breakthrough. He's building the capacity you'll need to carry it. Think about this. When NASA trains astronauts, do they send them to a beach resort? No. They put them in centrifuges that spin them at forces that would make a normal person pass out. They submerge them in pools for hours, simulating zero gravity until their bodies adapt to impossible conditions. Why? Because space doesn't care if you're ready. The mission demands it. Your test has been your training ground. Every impossible situation you've navigated, every mountain you've climbed with no equipment, every valley you've walked through with no light, it was all preparation. God has been building something in you that can't be built in comfort. Character, endurance, unshakable faith. And here's what terrifies hell about you right now. You're still standing. After everything they threw at you, after every weapon they formed against you, after every scheme designed to take you out, you're still here, still praying, still believing, still trusting. That's not human strength, beloved. That's divine DNA activating in your bloodstream. That's the evidence that you're not ordinary. That's proof positive that heaven has invested too much in you to let you fall now. 1 Peter 4:12 says, "Dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you as though something strange were happening to you. God's not shocked by your struggle. He orchestrated it. He designed it. He's been right there in the furnace with you the entire time, making sure the temperature was hot enough to refine you, but never hot enough to destroy you. Your private obedience when the world wasn't watching, God saw it. Your faithfulness when there was no applause, heaven recorded it. Your worship in the valley when you had every reason to curse, angels documented it. And now, right now, you're about to discover what happens when someone passes the test that most people quit in the middle of. If you know you've been in a test, if you recognize that every battle you fought was actually preparing you for what's coming next, type "Still I Stand" in the comments. Make that your declaration. Let heaven see that you didn't just survive, you stood your ground. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why God needed you to pass this specific test before he could release what he's been holding in reserve for you. You want to know the truth? The real reason you're exhausted right now, it's not your age, it's not your circumstances, it's the silence, the deafening, soul-crushing silence from heaven that's been following you like a shadow for months, maybe years. You've been praying the same prayers so long, your knees have made permanent dents in the carpet beside your bed. You've been believing for breakthrough until the word itself tastes like ashes in your mouth. And nothing moves. That job your son needed, still unemployed. That healing you claimed, still waiting. That reconciliation with your daughter, she still won't return your calls. That financial miracle you've been standing on scripture for, your bank account is still screaming at you every time you open it. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many times have you whispered in the dark, "God, did you forget me?" How many Sunday mornings have you sat in church, watching everyone else get their testimony while you're still living in your test? How many nights have you stared at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if you did something wrong, if you're being punished, if maybe, just maybe, you missed your window? I know exactly what you've been thinking. You've been wondering if God moved on, if he's answering younger people's prayers because they have more time, more energy, more value. You've been battling thoughts that whisper, "You're too old now. Your season passed. God's done with you." But what if everything you think you know about delay is wrong? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. When a farmer plants a seed, what happens next? Does it explode out of the ground in 24 hours? Does it announce itself with trumpets and fanfare? No. It goes silent. It goes dark. It goes underground where nobody can see it. And in that darkness, in that pressure, in that seeming nothingness, that's when the most important work happens. The seed breaks open. It dies to what it was. It sends roots down before it ever sends shoots up. And every single day it sits in that soil, you'd swear nothing was happening. You'd swear it was dead, forgotten, wasted. But God never wastes a seed. Your delay is not your denial, beloved. Your delay is your development. Every month you've been waiting, every door that stayed shut, every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling, heaven was working underneath. God was sending your roots deeper, stronger, wider than they've ever been. Because what he's about to release in your life is so massive, so overwhelming, so far beyond anything you've asked or imagined, that if it came any sooner, you'd collapse under the weight of it. You needed these years to build the capacity for what's coming. Think about Moses. 40 years in Pharaoh's palace learning leadership. Then another 40 years in the desert learning humility. 80 years old, 80, before God said, "Now you're ready." You think Moses understood the delay? You think he wasn't wondering in year 35 of herding sheep if he'd missed his calling? But God was building something in the wilderness that the palace could never produce. Think about Joseph. 17 when he got the dream. 30 when he got the throne. 13 years of slavery, betrayal, false accusations, and prison. 13 years of delay. But Genesis 41 to 46 doesn't say Joseph was bitter when Pharaoh finally called him. It says he was ready. The delay didn't destroy his destiny, it refined it. You know what's happening to you right now? The same thing. God has been quiet because he's been working. He's been distant because he's been digging. He's been slow because he's been strategic. And every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every moment of silence has been building pressure in the spiritual realm that's about to explode into your natural circumstances. Here's what you need to understand. Something you thought God forgot is about to return. That promise from 15 years ago that you gave up on, it's not dead. That dream you buried after the third disappointment, it's not over. That calling you convinced yourself you imagined, heaven never cancelled it. The prophet Habakkuk stood in his own season of crushing delay, and God told him something that's going to shatter every lie you've believed. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Did you catch that? Though it tarries, though it delays, though it takes longer than you expected, though it feels like forever, it will surely come. Not might come. Not could come if you're lucky. Will come. The delay doesn't cancel the promise, the delay confirms it. Because easy promises don't require waiting. Quick answers don't require faith. Instant breakthroughs don't require character. But you, God trusted you with delay because he knew you could handle what shallow believers couldn't. He knew your roots would go deep enough. Your faith would grow strong enough. Your character would become solid enough to carry what's about to be released. The silence wasn't abandonment, chosen one. It was the sound of God working behind the scenes, moving pieces into position, orchestrating divine appointments, preparing people you haven't even met yet to be part of your breakthrough. Your waiting wasn't wasted. It was warfare, and you won. But here's the question that's going to determine everything that happens next. Now that you know the delay was strategic, now that you understand heaven was working while you were waiting, are you going to keep believing the lie that you missed your moment? Or are you finally going to step into the truth that your moment is right now? Because something is about to break loose, and you need to be ready. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. The moment heaven spoke your name in that throne room, something else heard it too. And what I'm about to tell you might shake you to your core, but you need to understand this if you're going to survive what's coming next. Hell only attacks what heaven anoints. You think it's coincidence that the pressure increased right after you started feeling hopeful again. You think it's random that your body started breaking down just when you finally had peace about your purpose. You think it's bad luck that your own children suddenly turned cold right when you were about to step into something new. No, beloved, that's warfare. Strategic, calculated, demonic warfare. See, the enemy doesn't waste ammunition on people who don't matter. Satan doesn't deploy his best demons against folks who pose no threat to his kingdom. But you've had a target on your back since the day God whispered your assignment. And now that you're getting close, now that breakthrough is within reach, hell is throwing everything it's got at you. But here's what's going to mess with your mind. The attacks don't look like attacks anymore. Remember the Garden of Eden? The serpent didn't charge at Eve with fangs out and venom dripping. He didn't attack her with violence or obvious evil. Genesis 3:1 says he was more crafty than any of the wild animals. He slithered up with a conversation, a question, a suggestion that sounded almost reasonable. Did God really say? That's how the enemy operates when you're close to your blessing. He stops being obvious. He stops being loud. He gets subtle. He gets sophisticated. He wraps poison in pretty packaging and hands it to you with a smile. Let me tell you what this looks like in your life right now. That opportunity that came out of nowhere, the one that seems too good to be true, the one that would pull you away from what God's been whispering to your spirit, that's not provision, dear one. That's distraction dressed up as breakthrough. That old friend who suddenly reappeared after years of silence. the one who's filling your ear with doubt about the very thing God told you to do. That's not reconciliation. That's sabotage wearing a familiar face. That peace you feel about giving up, about settling, about saying I'm too old for this anyway. That's not wisdom. That's the enemy's anesthesia, trying to numb you before the surgery of your destiny. And here's the truth that's going to cut deep. Sometimes the counterfeit comes through the people you love most. Your own daughter calls you crazy for believing God still has plans for you at 75. Your son rolls his eyes when you talk about the dreams you've been having. Your best friend from church, the one you've known for 30 years, suddenly thinks you're getting a little too spiritual and suggests you calm down and act your age. Jesus knew this pain. Matthew 10:36 warns us, a man's enemies will be the members of his own household. Not might be, will be. Because the closer you get to your calling, the more threatened the comfortable become. And sometimes the people who should celebrate your awakening are the very ones trying to put you back to sleep. But listen to what I'm about to tell you and let it sink deep into your bones. The closer you get to blessing, the gentler the enemy's traps become. When you were far from your purpose, hell came at you with obvious destruction, addiction, violence, chaos. But now that you're inches away from breakthrough, the traps look like wisdom, they sound like concern, they feel like love. Maybe you should wait a little longer. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it? But it's delay wrapped in caution. You need to be realistic about your age. That sounds practical, doesn't it? But it's limitation disguised as logic. God wouldn't ask you to do something this uncomfortable. That sounds spiritual, doesn't it? But it's comfort masquerading as faith. Do you see what's happening? The enemy knows he can't stop you with obvious attacks anymore. You've survived too much. You've seen God move too many times. So now he's trying to stop you with counterfeits, fake opportunities, false peace, deceptive open doors that lead nowhere except away from your destiny. And I know some of you right now are thinking about that thing that came up last week. That offer, that relationship, that solution to your problem that appeared out of thin air right when you were most desperate. And something in your spirit felt off about it, but your mind said maybe this is God's provision. Beloved, if it doesn't align with what God already told you, it's not provision, it's poison. If it requires you to compromise what heaven confirmed, it's not a blessing, it's a trap. If it looks like your breakthrough but costs you your integrity, your peace, or your obedience, it's counterfeit. 1 John 4:1 commands us, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. Test it. Hold it up to the light of what God already spoke. If it contradicts His word to you, reject it no matter how good it looks, no matter who's offering it, no matter how desperate you feel. Because here's what the enemy's counting on. He's betting that you're too tired, too lonely, too desperate to wait for the real thing. He's hoping your weariness will make you settle for the counterfeit. He's praying your isolation will make you grab whatever hand reaches out, even if it's pulling you off course. But you're not that desperate. You're not that weak. You're not that foolish. You've come too far, survived too much, and heard too clearly from heaven to fall for a demonic knockoff now. If you've seen any counterfeit blessings lately, if the enemy's tried to hand you something that looked right but felt wrong, write, I choose God's timing in the comments right now. Let hell know you're not falling for the bait. Let heaven know you're willing to wait for the real thing. Because what's coming next is going to require you to discern the difference between what looks like God and what actually is God. And your very survival depends on knowing which voice you're listening to. You know what breaks my heart? It's not the big dramatic failures that crush people. It's the quiet faithfulness that nobody ever sees. It's the tears you've cried at 2 a.m. when your knees hit the carpet and you whispered prayers so desperate, so raw, so honest that you couldn't even say them out loud in church. Heaven heard every single word. Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. While your children were too busy to call, while your friends stopped checking in, while the world moved on without you, God was taking notes. Not just listening, taking notes, recording, documenting every moment you thought you were alone. You think nobody saw when you forgave your daughter for the 3rd time, even though she never apologized. You think nobody noticed when you sent that check to help your grandson, knowing it meant you'd eat less that month. You think it went unrecorded when you bit your tongue instead of speaking the truth that would have destroyed your marriage. Malachi 3:16 says, "Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other, and the Lord listened and heard." A scroll of remembrance was written in his presence concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. A scroll, not a passing thought, not a casual observation. A scroll. Your name is on that scroll, beloved. And every act of silent obedience, every tear shed in secret, every moment you chose faith when bitterness would have been easier, it's all written there in permanent ink. But here's what's going to wreck you. Here's the part that's going to make you weep right where you're sitting. While you were wondering if your life mattered, while you were questioning if anyone cared, while you were feeling invisible and forgotten, heaven was throwing a parade in your honor that you couldn't hear yet. You've been like a lighthouse standing on a cliff in the storm. A lighthouse doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't post on social media begging for likes. It just stands. And because it stands, because it refuses to move, even when the winds howl and the waves crash, ships find their way home. Sailors live, families stay intact, generations survive. That's you. You didn't know it, but that's who you've been. Your grandson isn't on drugs right now because you prayed. Your daughter's marriage didn't fall apart because you fasted. Your neighbor didn't take his life because you showed up with that casserole and stayed for coffee. You have no idea how many catastrophes didn't happen because you stood in the gap. 1 Samuel 2-9 declares, "He will guard the feet of his faithful servants, not the feet of the famous, not the feet of the celebrated, the feet of the faithful, the ones who showed up when nobody was watching, the ones who kept their integrity when it cost them everything." But let me ask you something that's going to hit different. How many years have you spent believing the lie that your life didn't count because you never made it big? How many decades have you wasted thinking God was disappointed in you because you never pastored a mega church or wrote a best-selling book or had thousands of followers? You want to know what heaven celebrates? Heaven celebrates the 4-year-old grandmother who's been praying for her prodigal son for 32 years and hasn't quit. Heaven celebrates the 1-year-old widower who still sets a place at the table for his wife every Sunday because remembering her faithfulness keeps him faithful. Heaven celebrates the 8-year-old woman who volunteers at the food bank every Thursday, even though her knees scream with arthritis. Those aren't small things, dear one. Those are eternal investments that compound interest in realms you can't see yet. Jesus said in Matthew 6-4, "So that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you." Did you catch that? Your Father who sees, not who might see, not who occasionally glances, who sees. Present tense, active, constant, unblinking. Nothing, and I mean nothing you endured was wasted. That loneliness, it taught you how to commune with God when no one else was around. That financial pressure, it forced you to depend on Him instead of your own strength. That heartbreak, it cracked you open so His light could shine through. Every single moment of suffering had a purpose. Every tear had a destination. Every prayer had a filing number in heaven's archive. And right now, this very second, God is preparing to honor what you did in silence. But here's the urgency you need to feel in your bones. The window for this recognition is narrow. The season for this unveiling is specific, and you're sitting in it right now. Heaven noticed when no one else did. Heaven recorded what everyone else ignored. Heaven celebrated what the world called insignificant. And now heaven is about to shock the people who overlooked you by showing them what they missed. Now heaven is about to elevate the faithful servant who thought their season was over. Now heaven is about to prove that the last shall be first and the hidden shall be revealed. Your lighthouse didn't go dark, beloved. It's been shining the whole time. You just couldn't see how many ships you were saving. But the fog is lifting, and what's about to be revealed will leave you breathless, because when God honors the hidden, He doesn't do it quietly. So here's the question that will determine everything. Now that you know heaven has been watching, now that you understand your faithfulness has been recorded, what are you going to do with this revelation? Dear one, I need to talk to you about something that's going to cut deep. I'm talking about that hospital room. You know the one where the doctor's words hung in the air like smoke and you couldn't breathe. The one where you held your spouse's hand and felt it go cold. The one where they said stage 4 and time stopped. I'm talking about that moment you opened the mail and saw the foreclosure notice. 43 years of mortgage payments, and now strangers were coming to take the only home your grandchildren ever knew. You sat at that kitchen table, the same table where you'd served Sunday dinners for decades, and you couldn't even cry anymore. You were past tears. You were in that place beyond breaking. I'm talking about that phone that doesn't ring. Your daughter hasn't called in 8 months. Your son moved to California and forgot you exist. Those grandkids you raised while their parents were working, they don't even know your birthday anymore. You scroll through Facebook, seeing their lives continue without you, and something inside you whispers, I don't matter anymore. You know what I'm describing, don't you? That moment when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. When did you become so old? When did your body betray you like this? When did the world decide you were invisible? But here's what's about to shatter everything you thought you knew about those moments. Here's the revelation that hell has been fighting to keep from you. Here's the truth that's going to split your understanding wide open. You weren't breaking down. You were breaking open. Listen to me carefully. Every single moment you thought was destroying you was actually reconstructing you. That's not poetry, that's prophecy. That's not comfort, that's covenant. God wasn't abandoning you in that hospital room. He was operating on you. That financial collapse wasn't punishment, it was pruning. Those children who walked away, they were removed so you could finally hear what heaven has been trying to tell you. John 12:24 says it plainly. Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. You thought you were dying, beloved, but you were being planted. Think about a seed for a moment. Really think about it. When a farmer pushes that seed into dark soil, covers it with dirt, buries it where no light can reach, is he trying to kill it? No, he's positioning it for transformation. But here's what nobody tells you about seeds. They must break before they grow. The outer shell must crack. The protective covering must tear apart. And in that moment of breaking, that moment that looks like death, that moment when everything seems lost, that's when life begins. You've been that seed, chosen one, buried in darkness, covered by circumstances that felt like suffocation, hidden beneath layers of pain, loss, and disappointment, and you thought God had forgotten you were down there. But He hasn't forgotten. He's been waiting for the breaking to complete, waiting for the shell to crack, waiting for new life to emerge. Look at what happened to you in that breaking. When your spouse died, something broke in you that needed to break your dependence on human companionship instead of divine presence. When your finances collapsed, something shattered that needed to shatter your trust in money instead of Jehovah Jireh. When your children walked away, something cracked that needed to crack your identity as mom or dad so you could remember your identity as a child of the Most High God. The breaking wasn't random, it was surgical, it was specific, it was sacred. Think about a cocoon. That caterpillar spins itself into what looks like a tomb. It seals itself into darkness, and then something miraculous happens. It doesn't just change, it liquefies. Everything it was dissolves. Complete destruction of its original form. If you could peek inside that cocoon during the transformation, you wouldn't see a butterfly waiting to emerge. You'd see liquid. You'd see what looks like total annihilation. But that liquid, that's not death. That's metamorphosis. That's the moment between what was and what's coming. That's the holy space where God does His most profound work. You've been in the cocoon, haven't you? That's what these years have been. That season when everything you were got liquefied. Your identity dissolved. Your certainties melted. Your old self completely broke down. And you've been terrified because you couldn't see what was coming. You could only feel what was leaving. But beloved, can I tell you something that's going to resurrect hope in your chest? The cracks in your spirit, those fissures in your heart, those breaks in your soul, those shattered pieces of who you used to be, those aren't evidence of your destruction. They're evidence of your reconstruction. Because here's the mystery. The cracks are where God's light pours out. Leonard Cohen wrote, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." But I'm telling you something deeper. The cracks aren't just where light gets in, they're where light gets out. You think you're broken and diminished? No. You're broken and radiant. The glory that's been building inside you for 70, 80, 90 years, it couldn't get out through the thick shell of who you used to be. But now that you're cracked open, now that life has shattered your defenses, now the glory can finally shine. 2 Corinthians 4-7 declares, "We have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us." Clay jars, fragile, breakable, cracked, and that's exactly the point. The treasure inside you was never meant to stay contained. It was always meant to pour out, but it couldn't, not until you broke. So let me ask you something that's going to determine your entire future. Are you going to keep mourning what broke? Or are you going to celebrate what's breaking through? Are you ready for God to turn your breaking into your becoming? If you're ready, if you're finally ready to stop seeing yourself as damaged goods and start seeing yourself as a cracked vessel pouring out glory type, I'm ready right now. Because what happens next requires you to embrace the break. You remember that door, don't you? The one that slammed in your face when you were certain, absolutely certain, it was God's will for your life. That job you didn't get in 1987. That house you couldn't buy in 92. That relationship that fell apart right when you thought you'd finally found someone. That business opportunity that dissolved overnight. That invitation that never came. You've been carrying that rejection for decades, 30, 40, maybe 50 years of wondering what went wrong. Lying awake, replaying every detail, asking yourself, what did I do to deserve that? Why did God say no when I prayed so hard? Was I not faithful enough? Not worthy enough? Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What if I told you that closed door wasn't rejection at all? What if that slammed door was the hand of God Himself standing between you and complete destruction? You see, we've been taught to believe that every open door is a blessing and every closed door is a curse. But that's not how heaven operates. Sometimes the greatest mercy God can give you is a door that refuses to budge, no matter how hard you push. Think about what was on the other side of that door you've been mourning all these years. That job you didn't get? The company filed for bankruptcy 18 months later and left 200 families without pensions. That house you couldn't buy? It was built on a floodplain and 3 families lost everything in the storm of 2005. That person you thought was your soulmate? They're on their 3rd marriage now, leaving destruction in their wake. That business deal that fell through? Your would-be partner is serving 15 years for fraud. You didn't know any of this. You couldn't see it. But God did. Proverbs 16:9 says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." Not suggests, not hints, directs. Sometimes that direction looks like a brick wall when you were expecting a red carpet. Here's what breaks my heart. You've spent half your life thinking God was punishing you when He was actually protecting you. You've been angry at heaven for the very thing that saved your life. A locked door is not just a no. Sometimes it's God standing on the other side whispering, "Not this way, danger ahead. I love you too much to let you walk into that trap." But you couldn't hear Him, could you? Because the pain of rejection was so loud, it drowned out His voice. Because your heart was so set on what you wanted, you couldn't see what He was preventing. I'm talking to someone right now who's been bitter for 20 years about a door that stayed shut. You've rehearsed that rejection so many times it's become part of your identity. You've told yourself you're unlucky, cursed, forgotten by God. You've watched others walk through doors while yours remained locked, and you've wondered what was wrong with you. Nothing was wrong with you, beloved. Everything was right with God's timing. Let me tell you something that's going to shatter the lie you've been believing. He didn't block that door to punish you. He blocked it because he saw the trap on the other side. He saw the cancer diagnosis that would have come 3 years later if you'd moved to that city. He saw the accident that would have claimed your life on that highway you would have driven every day. He saw the person who would have destroyed your faith, stolen your peace, shattered your family. God wasn't withholding blessing, he was preventing burial. Think about the children of Israel at the Red Sea. Exodus 14:13, Moses said, "Do not be afraid, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." They were trapped, mountains on both sides, Egyptian army behind them, water in front of them. Every natural door was closed, and in that moment they thought they were finished. But God wasn't closing doors. He was positioning them for a miracle they never could have imagined. He was setting up a demonstration of his power that would echo through 3,000 years of history. Your closed door wasn't the end of your story, it was the setup for your testimony. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. There is a blessing connected to every door that stayed shut. Every rejection you've carried is actually a receipt for protection you never knew you needed. Every no you received was God's way of saying, "I have something better, but you're not ready yet, and the timing isn't right." You weren't denied, you were defended. And now, right now, in this season of your life, God is about to show you why. He's about to pull back the curtain and let you see what he saved you from. He's about to reveal the blessing that was buried inside that closed door you've been mourning all these years. But here's the question that's going to determine everything. Are you ready to release the bitterness? Are you ready to stop replaying that rejection and start recognizing that protection? Are you ready to thank God for the doors he closed just as much as the ones he opened? Because, beloved, what's about to happen next requires you to understand something that will change how you see your entire life. God's delays are not his denials, and his closed doors are not his final word. They're his way of saying, "Wait, watch, I'm about to do something you never saw coming. Chosen one, I need you to go back with me. Back to that night. You know the one I'm talking about. That night when everything almost ended. Maybe it was December of 2003. Maybe it was a Tuesday in July of 98. Maybe it was last year. But there was a moment, a split second, when hell had you in its crosshairs. The enemy had drawn up the papers, your obituary was written. The funeral arrangements were nearly set. But you're still here. Why? Let me tell you something that's going to make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. There was a night when a war council convened in the unseen realm. Demons gathered around your address like vultures circling prey. They studied your schedule. They knew your route to work. They knew you'd be alone. They knew you were vulnerable. And they struck. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that before they ever showed up, heaven had already deployed. Do you remember that car accident on the Cross Bronx Expressway? You were doing 65 in the middle lane when that truck lost control. 3 cars piled up, metal twisted like paper, glass everywhere. But somehow, you swerved at the exact right millisecond. You still don't know how your hands moved that fast. You still can't explain the reflex that wasn't yours. That wasn't luck, beloved. That was an angel's hand on your steering wheel. Or maybe it was subtler than that. Maybe it was the morning your alarm didn't go off. You were furious, scrambling, running 20 minutes late for that appointment. You cursed under your breath, frustrated at the delay. But then you found out later the building you were headed to had a gas leak. The explosion happened at 9:47 a.m., exactly when you would have been walking through that door. The alarm that didn't go off? That was heaven buying you time. Think about it. How many times have you had a gut feeling that made no logical sense? That whisper in your spirit that said, "Don't get on that bus." That unease that made you cancel plans. That strange heaviness that kept you home when everyone else went out. You thought you were being paranoid. You thought you were overthinking. But Proverbs 20:24 tells us plain, "A man's steps are directed by the Lord. How then can anyone understand their own way?" You weren't directing those steps, dear one. You were being redirected. I'm talking to the grandmother who almost took that medication the doctor prescribed, but something made you get a second opinion. The pharmacy had filled it wrong. The dosage would have stopped your heart. I'm talking to the grandfather who was supposed to be on that flight, but your grandson called crying, needing you, so you stayed home. That plane never made it to its destination. I'm talking to every senior citizen who's ever said, "I don't know why, but something told me not to go." That something was someone. See, here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Angels don't always show up with wings and halos and trumpets blaring. Sometimes an angel looks like a flat tire that makes you miss your exit. Sometimes divine intervention shows up as a closed road, a cancelled plan, a sudden illness that slows you down right before disaster strikes. You thought that stroke at 68 stole your independence, but what if it saved your life? What if being bedridden for 3 months put you exactly where you needed to be, out of harm's way, while hell unleashed chaos on the path you would have been walking? Psalm 91:11 declares, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Not some of your ways, not just the easy days, all your ways. Even the days you felt abandoned, even the nights you cried yourself to sleep, even the moments you were convinced God had forgotten your name. He stationed warriors you couldn't see. He posted guards you never knew were there. But here's where this gets personal. Here's where I need you to be brutally honest with yourself. How many times have you survived what should have killed you? How many diagnoses did the doctors say were terminal, yet here you are? How many financial disasters should have left you homeless, yet somehow the rent got paid? How many family crises should have destroyed you, yet you're still standing? That's not coincidence. That's not good fortune. That's not even your own strength. That's angelic intervention. You've been protected by forces you cannot see, guarded by warriors you'll never meet until you cross over. And the only reason you're still breathing American air, still waking up in your Brooklyn apartment, still sitting in your Bronx living room watching this message right now, is because heaven said, "Not yet, not them, not on my watch." Hell wanted you dead, but heaven wanted you deputized. The enemy tried to take you out because he saw what God planted in you. He recognized the anointing. He identified the calling. He knew that if you ever woke up to who you really are, his kingdom would suffer catastrophic losses. So he came for you early. He came for you hard. He came for you repeatedly. But every single time, an angel stepped in. Every single time. And now, right now, in this very moment, do you understand why you're still here? It wasn't so you could fade quietly into the background. It wasn't so you could spend your final years feeling invisible and irrelevant. You were kept alive for such a time as this. Because what heaven protected, heaven intends to deploy. If you've ever felt protected in ways you can't explain, if you've ever walked away from something that should have taken you out, if you know in your spirit that you've been guarded by forces beyond this world type, thank you, God, right now. Let heaven hear your gratitude. Let the angels see you recognize their work. Because, beloved, they didn't save you just to save you. They saved you for something. And that something is about to be revealed. Now, let me ask you something that might cut straight to the bone. If God performed an autopsy on your pain right now, if he laid open every wound you've been carrying for the last 40, 50, 60 years, what would he find? I'll tell you what he'd find. He'd find betrayal from the very people who were supposed to protect you. Your own children turned their backs when you needed them most. That business partner who stole everything you built. That church family who smiled in your face on Sunday and gossiped about you on Monday. You gave your whole life to people who couldn't even show up at your hospital bed. He'd find loneliness so deep it has a taste. You wake up in a house that used to be full of laughter, and now the silence screams at you. Your spouse is gone, your friends are dying one by one. You scroll through your phone and realize there's nobody left to call. Nobody asks how you're doing anymore. You've become invisible in a world that only celebrates the young and the loud. He'd find regret that sits in your chest like a stone. Why didn't I take that chance? Why did I waste so many years in that toxic marriage? Why didn't I stand up for myself when I had the strength? Why didn't I chase that dream when I still had time? The what-ifs haunt you more than any ghost ever could, and he'd find fear, raw, bone-deep fear about what comes next. Fear that your money will run out before your life does. Fear that you'll end up in some nursing home where nobody knows your name. Fear that you're going to die and nobody will remember you were even here. Fear that maybe, just maybe, God has forgotten about you too. You've been whispering it in the dark, haven't you? God, do you even remember me? Did I somehow fall off your radar? Did I mess up so badly that you just moved on? But here's what the divine autopsy reveals. Here's what heaven sees that you've been missing. Your pain isn't proof that God was absent. Your pain is proof that you were transitioning. Listen to me carefully. Pain is the handwriting of heaven on the walls of your soul. It's messy, but it's meaningful. Every scar tells a story. Every wound is a word. And when God reads your pain like a manuscript, He doesn't see failure, He sees formation. Think about Joseph. Genesis 50-20 says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Joseph didn't say that after a bad day. He said it after 13 years of slavery and false imprisonment. 13 years, but every single day in that pit, every night in that prison cell, was God writing a story that would save nations. Your betrayal? That taught you discernment. Now you can smell a liar from 3 blocks away. Your loneliness? That drove you into a prayer life so deep that heaven itself leans in when you whisper. Your regret? That killed your pride and gave birth to humility. Your fear? That forced you to trust a God you couldn't see instead of a world you could. David wrote in Psalm 119-71, "It was good for me to be afflicted so that I might learn your decrees." Good for me. Not comfortable. Not pleasant. Good. Because there are some lessons that only come wrapped in pain. But here's the part that's going to wreck you. Here's the truth that changes everything. You know why the pain has been so intense. You know why the pressure has been building for months, maybe years. Because there is something inside you that only breaks open under pressure. Something so precious, so powerful, so desperately needed by this dying world that God had to crush you like a grape to get the wine. You're not being destroyed, beloved. You're being distilled. But the question burning in heaven's throne room right now is this: will you let the pain teach you, or will you let it bury you? Because what happens next in your life depends entirely on how you answer that question. And what happens next is something you never saw coming. Beloved, as we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold 3 truths close to your heart. First, your pain has never been pointless. Every wound you've carried, every tear you've cried in secret, every moment you felt forgotten, it was all preparation, not punishment. God has been writing a story through your scars that only you can tell. Second, you are not too old, too late, or too broken for God to use you. The same God who called Moses at 80, who opened Sarah's womb at 90, who gave John the revelation in his 90s, that God is looking at you right now and saying, your finest hour is still ahead. And third, this message found you today because heaven needed you to hear one thing: you are not alone. Even when your phone doesn't ring, even when your children don't call, even when the world has moved on without you, the Creator of the universe has not forgotten your name. He's been working behind the scenes, orchestrating details you can't see, preparing doors you haven't found yet, positioning you for a breakthrough that will leave you speechless. And right here, in this community, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family united by faith, connected by struggle, and bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you this final question. What if everything you've been through was preparing you for something so magnificent that it required every single year, every single tear, every single battle to make you ready for it? Now, wherever you are, let me pray over you. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. You know their names, you know their struggles, you know the battles they've fought in silence and the tears they've cried in secret. Lord, I pray that you would breathe fresh hope into their weary spirits right now. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are engraved on your palms. Where they feel weak, be their strength. Where they feel lost, be their guide. Father, open doors that no man can shut. Bring divine connections that will change their trajectory. Restore relationships that seem beyond repair. Heal bodies that doctors have given up on. Provide finances from sources they never expected. Give them peace that surpasses all understanding and joy that the world cannot take away. Most of all, Lord, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know beyond any doubt that they are loved, they are chosen, they are not alone. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me what God spoke to your heart today. Share your testimony. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you. And please share this message with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt before you clicked on this video. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell because your breakthrough story is just beginning. And I don't want you to miss what God reveals next. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen. You are loved. You are never alone. God bless you, mighty warrior.